Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari, Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha, Giridhari, Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha, Giridhari, Yashodanandan Raja Janarandana, Yashodanandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Radhe, Jaya Jaya Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya 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 Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jai Radha Govinda Mahadev ki Jai, Krishna Balaram ki Jai, Gaur Premanandi ki Jai. So Hare Krishna, we'll continue with the seminar, the art of Krishna conscious parenting. And before we go to our second section, I just want to give a little, quick recap of what we have already done. So we have done the first section a few days ago, where we covered the preparation of the home, how to prepare the home to make it feasible, to make it conducive for our children's spiritual life. And within that framework, we had talked about different things that should be done and different things that should be avoided, right? The things that should be avoided was what? Anybody remember? Screen time. Very good. Screen time and basically screen time.
Wasting of the time.
Yeah. Internet, huh?
Bad association.
Bad association. Very good. Yeah. And so these are some of the things that can spoil whatever we are doing. And then of course the good things that we should do were, what was it? Some of the things that we can do, should do. A morning program, and eating prasadam, deity worship, good association. So these were some of the things that we were meant to do, we should do. And then we heard about why they are so important for our children. And now, and I'm sure I think some of you have still some questions on this first part. But first we'll begin with our second part and try to cover that before we go back. Then we'll give enough time for people, for whoever has questions from the last time as well as for this section as well. Okay. And then we'll take about 10 minutes to do the last section, which is preaching the essence. We'll also cover that today. Okay. So we move on to our next section, which is what? Books are the basis. Okay. Books are the basis. So this is good parenting means having firm faith in Srila Prabhupada's books. And this is not just for ourselves but also for children. And I'm going to read you a few quotes that Srila Prabhupada spoke when he asked the Gurukula people to introduce Bhagavatam in the schools. Okay? So this was in Dallas. The first school that Gurukula that opened was in Dallas. And this is what Srila Prabhupada said. Our students specifically, they should take care of reading Srimad Bhagavatam. We have therefore prescribed in our school Dallas. And from the very beginning, if they begin education with Bhagavad Gita and then come to MA PhD, to Srimad Bhagavatam and read the whole literature, then they will be more than MA PhD. Even astronomy, astrology, politics, sociology, atomic theory, everything is there. Therefore, if we study Srimad Bhagavatam very carefully, then you get all knowledge completely. Throughout the whole world, whatever knowledge is there is in the Srimad Bhagavatam. If one simply reads the Srimad Bhagavatam, his education is the topmost. If one studies Srimad Bhagavatam, he is well versed in every subject matter. And like I mentioned last time, this was something that I also experienced, without knowing that what Srila Prabhupada is saying is going to actually happen in our lives. And it's an experiment that many parents from ISKCON now are doing, and they've had excellent results. Each one is a very unique, they have very unique results from this. So the spiritual, we'll talk about this, it's going to be like 3 sections to this section. And one is going to be the spiritual benefits from reading Srimad Bhagavatam. This is especially for our children. Then the academic benefits. And then we're going to talk about the methodology of how to read Srimad Bhagavatam with our children. The spiritual benefits is good association. Again, we talked about that last time, how important good role models are for children, isn't it? Because I spoke about how today's society has all the wrong role models. Why? Because even though there's maybe a good role model, but it doesn't stay on that platform for too long. Because material goodness doesn't, is always contaminated with passion and ignorance over time. It doesn't stay on the platform of goodness. It's good, to be on the material goodness, because that helps in getting to the transcendental platform. But the unfortunate thing is that unless one is practicing devotional life, it doesn't stay too long. And even for those of us who are on the platform of goodness, we have troubles. Right? So we have to get on the Shuddha Sattva platform, to stay on that platform. So the heroes described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam is a book of stories. Right? So when these stories, when we learn about these great personalities, they become very good role models for our children. And their character rubs on them. And there's so many wonderful examples in Srimad Bhagavatam which has a deep effect on our children. Because the one thing we have to understand that the stories in Srimad Bhagavatam, they're not just moral stories. Okay, like my parents sent me to a convent, in India, and it was run by German nuns. It was a day school. It wasn't a boarding school. But I remember that because it was a Christian school, Catholic school, so the first period that we had was moral science. And we had to learn about, we used to learn about the Ten Commandments and, how we should follow these good things, where you honor your parents, you be nice to your neighbor, all these things I remember doing, but it never stayed in our hearts. We would hear it this way and it would go out. Right? Because these are moral issues, these are moral stories. You need some discrimination, you need to be, you need some intelligence to understand, okay, this is right and this is wrong. So, but then, but it's nothing that goes very deep into our hearts, right? When circumstances become challenging or we get into bad association, very soon these principles, we don't follow them. Right? But what Srimad Bhagavatam has, so you can say that like there's different scriptures, right, in our Vedas, right? So there's the Ramayana, there's the Mahabharata, and then there's the Srimad Bhagavatam, right? So the Ramayana is more based, they're more like moral stories, right? You need some discrimination, you need intelligence to understand, what we should do and what we shouldn't do. How to be a good husband, how to be a good father. Lord Ram himself came to show his Maryada Purushottam. So these things don't require, we can understand. With a little discrimination, we understand, right? So these are like moral stories. Then Srimad Bhagavatam is more than, Mahabharata is more challenging to understand. It's not so easy to understand as Ramayana. Ramayana is simpler to understand. Why does Mahabharata get more difficult? Because it's dealing with ethical issues. Ethical issues means two things that are seemingly looks right. There's two issues, but they both look right. So which one to take? Now, what examples can you think of? Many examples like that, right?
Karna.
Yeah.
Indians were all confused about it.
Yes.
Karna is more moral.
Yes.
Ekalavya.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any other example from the Bhagavatam?
Good parenting, you mean? Or
No, just two issues that is very, you have to decide between which is higher and which is lower, which one to take and which one to take.
Dhritarashtra and Indra.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What about Bali Maharaj?
Yeah.
Bali Maharaj, he had an ethical issue there because whether he should follow his Kula Dharma or Sanatana Dharma. In other words, his own guru he rejected. That was not, technically it was not right. But he still rejected his guru in place of the higher Dharma, which is Sanatana Dharma, to please Krishna. So that's the higher Dharma. Sanatana Dharma means the Dharma that pleases Krishna. And that's what Bhagavatam is. In Mahabharata also, one makes decisions according to Dharma, according to a level of mundane Dharma. But Bhagavatam leads to decisions according to Sanatana Dharma, the Dharma that pleases Krishna. So when a child does that, you can imagine how much the child is going to make sound decisions and how much that's going to be pleasing to Krishna. And you see that again and again, why the Pandavas were so dear to Krishna, why devotees are so dear to Krishna. Again and again. It's because they always took that. You see, Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, same thing. He ultimately gave up his lesser dharma of saving his, not killing his worshipable superiors to a higher dharma, which was Krishna's desire. Krishna said, you should do it. Because I'm telling you, this is for your good. And then of course he gave reasons, right? So when we do that, then we become very dear to Krishna, because ultimately we have to please Krishna. So such people become very, very dear to Krishna, very dear to Krishna. So again and again we see that, why the Pandavas also, because they follow the path of Dharma, the highest Dharma. And this is where Srimad Bhagavatam takes us, to the level where it rejects all sub-religious principles. And it takes the real religion, like today morning Prabhu was saying in class. Today religion is all about materialistic religion, piety. This is what people consider religion nowadays, In America, Vedic culture is all about how you can control possessing things. Like the less you have, you're considered more advanced, right? In today's culture, the more you have, the more saintly you are. In Christianity, now, if the pastors have a lot of money, the more money they have, they are considered more favored by Jesus. They're more worshipable by the people. They're more favored. Because the religion now has come to the level of materialistic religion. Now Bhagavatam is rejecting all that. And is taking us to this highest, purest level, which means, pleasing Krishna. Pleasing Krishna, which means giving up everything. Like Bali Maharaj gave up everything. Gajendra, the elephant, he gave up everything. He realized that even his relatives cannot save him, and he surrendered to the Lord. So it's like pulling the bar up. Slowly, slowly the child gets the point that ultimately this is the highest principle. And when he gets this highest principle, then all the good qualities come. You see, when Arjuna and the Pandavas, they adopted the highest religion, the highest principle, then all the good qualities come. You become a good husband, you become a good wife, you become a nice mother. Everything, those are lesser dharmas, they fall into place. Queen Kunti, she was, considered the most chaste woman because of her chastity to Krishna. But then she was very devoted to Pandu. It's just any chaste person, who's chaste to Krishna will automatically be the best human being. Okay? So Bhagavatam takes us to that level. It gives us this knowledge of who Krishna is and how everything begins from that. When we please Krishna, then he's very dear to us. Hiranyakashipu, because he was so envious of the Lord, everything he did was wrong. But Prahlad, because he was such a great devotee, he was able to even defeat his father. Such a powerful demon he was able to defeat. So good character gives children the tools to be happy in this life, to be able to please Krishna, to be great models, role models in the world, and to do wonderful things. Character is so very important. Like I said last time, getting a job, getting so many things is less difficult than having good character. It's practically impossible. And the only thing that gives us good character is Krishna consciousness. When we actually dedicate our lives to Krishna. And Srimad Bhagavatam is something that can really change, that can transform hearts. So we have many nice examples in the scriptures, like Parikshit Maharaj. He's a very good example, of pure. So what is so important, what's so unique about these stories? Because Bhagavatam can be taught in layers. It's not like one layer and it's the end, right? You keep reading and you get fresher and fresher meanings, right? So you uncover one layer and then you find another layer and then you find another layer. So children may not be able to go all through the 7 layers or 10 layers, but you start with the first layer, and it's so amazing because very quickly they'll come to the second, third, fourth layer, even when they're 5 years old. Because, this is spiritual, it's dealing with the soul. It has nothing to do with the body. So we're thinking the child is only 5 years old, what can he understand Shastra? But no, actually he can understand, he can go very deep. And we have the story of Prahlad, a 5-year-old boy who was such a great devotee, because it speaks to the soul. You see, so when they study it, then they actually are able to uncover different layers of understanding, which makes them more and more reflective and gives them better and more profound qualities. very profound qualities actually. Like the story of Parikshit Maharaj is not just about, oh look at this king, he's so humble. Imagine he's so humble. It's more than that. Huh? He was humble because he didn't overturn the curse. He accepted the curse. Imagine such a big king, emperor of the entire planet, he's cursed by a mere boy. It's a matter of insult. Imagine a little boy can curse him to die. And he had the power to reverse the curse. He had all Shakti. But he didn't exercise it. He didn't feel insulted. Instead, he saw it as a plan of the Lord. Because he knew that Kali Yuga, this is plan of the Lord, Kali Yuga had to come. And Srimad Bhagavatam had to be spoken. He understood that this is a plan of the Lord. Right? So and also, not only that, I mean, just one thing after another in that story, and then when he finds out he has a curse, then he's worried about what his father, Shamik Rishi, is feeling. He's not so concerned about his own emotions, his own fear that very soon, in 7 days, he's going to die. It's all about me then. If I'm sick or if I'm dying, then it's all about me. But he's not thinking of himself. He's worried about Shamik Rishi and how he's feeling. And he doesn't go to apologize to Shamik Rishi for throwing the snake around his neck because he's thinking that would embarrass him. He's worried about how he's going to feel about it. It's quite amazing, And so he doesn't go to apologize because he's very sensitive to what others are thinking. Anyway, there's so many little things that happens. The case of Dhruva Maharaj, also Suniti, she's so unenvious of her stepmother, of her co-wife, so unenvious, right? To the point that she directs Dhruva points out to Dhruva that she's actually she's right. You should go to the Lord. Whatever she said is okay. You shouldn't be envious of her, you shouldn't hate her. And she herself shows by example of giving up of having no envy. In the end, when Dhruva comes home and they're all going to meet him, then she goes in a palanquin and she puts Suruchi in her own palanquin, telling the world that look, we don't have a problem here. I mean, she could have been haughty and said, see, now I won. Now look at you, my son is coming back, see what you did. It's a good time to take revenge at that time, right? When Dhruva was coming back. But how did she respond? She sits on the palanquin and she also invites Suruchi, the stepmother, who was so harsh to Dhruva, to also sit on the same palanquin. So there's so many different layers that you understand, how children deal with somebody who's envious, somebody who's mean, how do you respond to that? This is all character building, right? Humility. Then Parikshit Maharaj is displaying tolerance, how he tolerated Kali, because he took shelter of him. And then he was fearless, Humility doesn't mean you become meek, you become, fearful. He was courageous of how he dealt with Kali, right? So humility means, it means fearlessness. Also. So all these things you see, good leadership, tolerance, humility, just in one story. You learn so much. And as they read, they understand more and more and more. With the help of the parents, the teachers, they actually go very deep. And what is all this doing? It's making an amazing human being. Somebody who will display in life such wonderful characteristics, who will become so dear to Krishna. One time Krishna tells, who was he speaking to? I think Murari Gupta, Lord Chaitanya speaking to Murari Gupta, explaining to him why devotees are so dear to him. He says, devotees are so dear to me that even if it were my own son, if he's bad, if he's a demon or in bad association, I will go and kill him. That Krishna is willing to kill his own son, if he's offending devotees. And he did that in the case of Narakasura, Bhaumasura. He was Krishna's own son from Mother Earth. When Varahadev goes to save Mother Earth, he impregnates her. And from that union, there was Narkasur, and he came into bad association with King Vena, and Krishna goes and kills him. So that's how deity is. So imagine any devotee who's displaying qualities which is pleasing to Krishna. So remember, these qualities are qualities that's pleasing to Krishna. It's qualities meant for a higher purpose to please Krishna, right? It's not just meant for moral issues or to be a good person. Not, in other words, not mundane morality. This on the higher principle means on the level of the soul. On the level of the soul, right? The soul's duty is to connect with Krishna. That is real morality. You know? So we're not talking about that. So when the children do that on that level, then they become very pleasing to Krishna, and that gives character. See, there's no other book that will do that except for Bhagavatam. Okay, the way the Bhagavatam is designed, it's like it's full of stories, and all the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita is in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and it's an easy book to teach for children. Why? Because it's stories. It's mostly stories, so the children can digest it easily. And they get all the philosophy of the Gita also in there. Of course, you can start with the Gita, no problem with that. But Bhagavatam, because it's presented in this fun way, in the form of stories, the children are able to. You will ultimately, after reading the Gita, you still have to come to Bhagavatam, right? You still have to read Bhagavatam for that. So in this way, there's many stories like that that talks about the example of Dhruva, the gratefulness. The character of gratefulness. We want our children to be grateful to us, right? For all the sacrifice we make. How do you teach them gratefulness? You can't. You can't sit and tell them that I did so much for you. You should be grateful to your parents. I say, what? What's that? They don't understand. They don't want to. This doesn't appeal to them, right? And gratefulness to parents also means gratefulness to other Vaishnavas. Right? How do you teach them? But in the story of Dhruva, you see, it goes very deep there. Dhruva, after 36,000 years, when he was ready to go back to Godhead, what did he do? The airplane came, right? And he didn't want to sit on the airplane. What did he say?
He goes and thanks all the sages in the ashram.
Yes. Besides that, why did he not want to sit on the airplane?
Because his mother.
Yeah, because of his mother. And he is thinking of his mother after 36,000 years. That little conversation he had, that set him on his path. It set him on his path towards reaching his goal, right? Seeing Krishna face to face. He's grateful for that 5-minute conversation that changed his life. And he says, I can't go without her. Something that happened so long time ago, he still remembered. That's gratefulness. And stories like that, and I'll tell you right now, there was one boy that I was doing Dhruva, and he was only 4.5. I was doing this Dhruva story with him, and we came to that part where the plane comes down, and Nanda Nanda, they invite Dhruva to sit, and Dhruva says, no, my mother needs to go first. Then this boy hears the description of this plane, and he gets really attractive, and he said, I want to sit on that plane and go back to I want to go to Krishna Lok right now. So I told him, I said, I was saying, he's a little boy. And I said, okay, one day you can go. Then he started reading again. He said, no, but I want to sit on that plane. I want to go right now to Krishna Lok. I said, okay, if you want to go, then just remember, you can go, but your parents cannot go. Is that okay? Because you can go, okay, go and do something. He's a boy, right? So I was trying to see what he says. And I said, but your parents cannot go. And he started thinking, and he said, you know what, I will wait for a little while. I will wait. Because I don't want to make the same mistake as Ajamal did. This was a 4.5-year-old boy. And this Ajamal story that he did with me was many months ago. Very long time ago. He brought the two stories together. And again, I've experienced that with little children. What to speak of teenagers, what to speak of children older. This is the depth that they go into. You think, because Bhagavatam is so transcendental, it will just keep on going deeper and deeper in the hearts of anyone who who listens to it. And imagine a 4.5-year-old child cannot read. So I was reading to him the story. I was reading to him the stories, explaining him and asking questions and doing discussion. And I'll tell you the process later. This is what we were doing. It's not like he was sitting and reading a book. He can't even read. It's like amazing. And this goes really deep. I mean, he's thinking that if I go now, my parents can, I will have to leave them. But then that means neglect. What are they going to do in old age? Ajamal made that mistake and he was regretting. When Ajamal transformed his life, he realized what he did. The Yamadutas came, right? And then he said, oh my gosh, I got a second chance. And then immediately he was lamenting, oh, I left my poor parents, my old parents, I left my chaste wife. And he remembered that. And he said, if I go now, what is going to happen in the old age? So what I'm saying is that Srimad Bhagavatam gives qualities which permeate in every area. There's another boy that I was doing the Bali Maharaj story. And when Bali Maharaj extends his 3 steps, he wanted 3 steps, right? The first step he covered the planet Earth. And the second step he covered the entire universe, right? And then Bali Maharaj saw himself under Krishna. Immediately said, oh, this is the same thing like Mother Yashoda, when she had Krishna open his mouth, she saw herself in that. See, he made the 2 things. And this was again, like 5-year-old boy. A girl. This was a girl. So what I'm saying is that it's not just one boy, special boy who does that. And that this second case was a case of thinking, like reflecting, thinking, critical thinking, comparing 2 stories. All these things that they teach in schools, Srimad Bhagavatam covers it all. Comparisons, analogies, metaphors, everything is in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The analogies help the child do abstract thinking. How do you understand spiritual concepts except through material examples? How do we understand what is the difference between body and soul only from the analogy of the difference between car and driver? The body is the car and the driver is the soul. And so nicely Prabhupada explains that. So when children read these examples, these analogies, it sharpens their intellect. They're learning very difficult concepts, but in this wonderful way. So many nice examples. Just understanding the concept of death is so, like you wonder how you're going to teach your children things like death, and parents say, I can't read Srimad Bhagavatam, it's all about this and that, hellish planets, death and all. But the way it's presented is not difficult, right? Because we have this example that Prabhupada gives, right? It's like the cat when it takes the rat in the mouse, and the cat that takes the kitten in the mouse. And the cat holds the kitten is like, oh, this is so wonderful, right? And when he holds the rat, he's like almost losing his life, right? So a devotee is like the kitten in Krishna's mouth. So death is like the cat holding the kitten for a devotee. It's not fearful. So Srimad Bhagavatam is taught by comparison. So if there is a description of death, which is meant for sinful people, then there is Dhruva Maharaj going back to God in this beautiful way. So there's always contrast. So it's not without context. And that kind of understanding makes a child not become fearful or negative, but rather it's very positive. He actually develops hope and happiness in the whole life because he knows there's a solution to all the suffering that he sees. Imagine the karmi children who are out there who don't have access to this, how hopeless they feel, right? That's why you see drugs and so many other problems in society. Because they have no solution. They don't know where to look for solution. They become disappointed. These kids growing up, they know, okay, the material life is full of suffering and there's so many self-serving people like Hiranyakashipu, well, there's Prahlad also. Everything has a context. If death can be fearful, yeah, it can be fearful for sinful people, but then it's not fearful for others. So in this way, by teaching with contrast, we can give great, give a very nice perspective on life, because it's a fact of life. The children live in this material world, they have to understand what material life is all about. But if it's put in the context of Krishna consciousness, it's not fearful anymore. Why are devotees so happy? They're also living in the material world. They also, we also go through our suffering, our purification. But yet, we are happy. Because we know, okay, it's like that, but there's so much happiness in spiritual life, in Krishna consciousness. So the same thing we have to give our children. We have to give them hope. But even when they see things going wrong in the world, they can understand what's happening. And also, Srimad Bhagavatam covers every psychological situation in the world. I mean, children are able to capture what others are thinking, the psychology behind it. They're able to deal with all kinds of people. When our kids were young, when they went to college, and they were able to understand the psychology of people 6 or 8 years older than them. Where did they get that from? The first thing the dean asked is that emotionally, how will they cope with it? How will they cope with people older than them? Because, we are dealing with that. I mean, every story in the Bhagavatam is dealing with all types of psychology, people, right? And it's easy to understand why people act the way they act. Surishi is so envious. Every story in the Bhagavatam is all about fall downs. There's so many fall downs in Bhagavatam. Even Vyasadeva fell down. It's not about whole success stories of everyone. Even Narada Muni fell down. So it's all about fall down, but the thing behind it is how these people react to that. How they bring themselves up. Falling down is not a surprising thing, but how you pull yourself up. How Suniti, in this circumstances where she was rejected by her husband, thrown out of the palace, then her son gets rejected, but how she deals with it. That is the story for Srimad Bhagavatam. That okay, circumstances, challenges are going to come, but then how do you deal with it? How does the devotee take it? Does he take Krishna's shelter, as Suniti did? Or is he going to retaliate, take revenge, get upset? So that's the whole point. So it teaches great characters, right? Then we have the academic benefits from reading Srimad Bhagavatam. It's very important so the whole purpose of reading Srimad Bhagavatam is to ultimately become a pure devotee and go back to Godhead. But there's other benefits that just become a byproduct, which one would automatically develop from reading Srimad Bhagavatam. And these are these abilities: strong reasoning abilities, critical thinking skills, communication skills, and good vocabulary. And this is what employers are looking for in today's society. They're looking for people who can take information, look at it critically, organize it, separate it, and then present it with their own realizations. Gone are the days when you were hired because you had good marks in college. Now they're looking for other skills. They're not looking for people who can give smart answers, but who can frame good questions. Life has really changed. The educational institutions are looking for people who can have all these skills we've mentioned here. In America, if you want to become a lawyer, the prerequisite is a degree in philosophy. A degree in philosophy. Why? Not because of the content. It's because of the skills that's needed to come to a philosophical solution. Imagine a child studying Srimad Bhagavatam. What kind of lawyer is he going to become? He's going to excel. Every story is rich with critical thinking. Every story. So any skill that one wants to have, Bhagavatam is going to be an asset for that career, for that whatever field of life he's going to accept. And like I said yesterday, good vocabulary is just like a byproduct. It's like MA PhD. Bhagavatam is MA PhD. I mean, look at the words, look at the vocabulary. It's very, very high. And over there in Vrindavan Gurukul, they're teaching Bhagavatam through these books, these guidebooks that we have at the back, but they're also teaching English language through them. They've managed somehow to bring it to that CPSC level that they need to do. Anyway, and so what I'm saying is that Bhagavatam can really boost language skills, just because if you just read and discussed, and just a few activities, that would bring their vocabulary, language skills, language arts very high, just by doing that. Not that you give them homework every day or anything like that. Okay, so and communication skills, I'll tell you later. So this is the academic benefits. And how does it, I'll give you one example in this. I don't know if you've read the Jai Vijay story, in the third canto, when they're cursed by the four sages, right, Kumari. So that's a very good story for children. You know, I did that with many batches of children, and it's amazing the different layers that they go through in critical thinking, you know. Everybody knows that story of the sages being cursed? I mean, the Jai and Vijay being cursed by the sages? Yeah? Okay. So, in that story, Jai and Vijay, they are cursed by the sages because they won't allow them to come inside Vaikuntha. So, the sages get angry and they're cursed. And then, so who's right? Are the sages right? Or are the gatekeepers right? So the children get to think about that. So you can, there's some who will say, no, Jai was, the gatekeepers were right. After all, they were doing their job. They had to test them and see if they were qualified, and these were impersonalists and all that. And then the other said, no, but the sages if they were very eager to see Krishna, they should have stopped them like that. So like that we went back and forth. And then Krishna walks in. And then he really confuses the sages because he's praising the devotees so highly. So they start thinking, wow, these gatekeepers were such dear devotees of Krishna. Maybe we did the wrong thing by punishing them. Maybe. And then when Krishna comes, they ask Krishna to punish them. They were already feeling bad. So in this way, and then the Jai Vijay, when they got cursed, what did they do with the curse? Did they curse back? They were very powerful people. They were caretakers of Krishna in the last gate, which means they were closest to Lord Narayan. There are 7 gates to Vaikuntha, and they were in the innermost gate, the last one. Very dear to Krishna. So, what did they do when they got cursed? Did they curse them back? No, they accepted the curse. In fact, they prayed to the 4 sages that please, let me not forget Krishna, even as we are falling down to the material world. In other words, when devotee get angry, what do? You get angry, do you curse them back? No, you accept it because they mean for your own good. Anger by a devotee is, something that we accept because we say, okay, it's Krishna's trying to tell me something, right? Very meaningful, the story, because this gatekeepers didn't react in that way. They were very close devotees, but they reacted so nicely. Right? And then we talked about different types of anger. Was the anger okay for the sages, Kumaras, to show anger? Anger is bad, right? And these were such great souls, they were angry. So what is good anger, what is bad anger? We went through all that. There was one boy who was such a nice boy, nice devotee boy, but he had a problem with anger. He would get into such a rage, his parents couldn't control him. Otherwise he was such a nice boy. And the parents were like gentle people. And yet he couldn't do it. So they asked me and I said, read Bhagavatam. And they were reading Bhagavatam for a few months. The anger totally went away. It's a fact. I mean, it's very real. Imagine. It's very powerful because here you're discussing all the different types of anger. And you see in Bhagavatam, different types of anger. See, this sages are getting angry, Dhruva getting angry, Hanuman's anger, good anger, bad anger, you know. So, okay, anger can be used for Krishna, but we have to be careful who we get angry with, right?
Can I interrupt you and ask you a question? When you say that when the parents started telling them the stories, do they, like what age group they are, and do the parents read from the Bhagavatam as purpose as well as?
Yeah.
How does it?
Yeah, so that's what I'm getting into now, methodology, right here. Yeah. Good timing. So we can take turns. If the children are able to read, then we take turns reading the Bhagavatam. Okay, reading the translations only. Children, it's better for children not to read purports. It's better that children don't read purports because it's too long and they get tired and they lose interest. So, but teachers and parents, they read the purpose ahead of time and they bring the points of the purpose through the form of discussion to the children. Okay? In other words, we bring it to the children. And we don't have to bring the points of every purport. Just select it.
Something relevant.
Yeah, and something that inspires you also. It's okay. Because if they are your children, you know what level they are and what it's good for them. And like I said, it's a layer, so you can't cover everything. I mean, Prabhupada's purpose is like, there's so many points there and so many things there. So you bring the points to them, but we take turns reading translations only, and then we open it for discussions. And when we open it for discussion, there's so many, one point will lead to another point, to another point, to another point. And very soon you find yourself going very deep into different areas. And what happens, the wonderful thing that the relationship between the parent and the child or teacher and the child becomes very close. There's something about this, transcendental books, like Srimad Bhagavatam, it just opens up the heart. It's when you read Bhagavatam with anybody, you become very close to that person, isn't it? Like even among adults, when you read Shastra with somebody, especially Bhagavatam, you become very open. Your heart opens out. You want to reveal things. So what happens is children start revealing their hearts to the parents. And the communication between the parents and children gets very close. And all their things and all their misgivings and all their problems that they're having, they start revealing and discussing that. And the parent also doesn't hesitate to discuss that. So they see, that okay, this is, how much reality, We don't have to give them a picture perfect life. I'm so perfect. They see our struggles. But we're still their authority, we're still their teachers, their parents. But yet they know that we are on this path of perfection, But we are not perfect. And they appreciate that. And then of course they also. So all this problem of miscommunication or shutting off, closing up, all goes away. Because at a certain point children will shut down. They don't want to discuss. Because they're going through so many problems, so many changes in their body and emotions, that they clamp up. Because nobody can understand that. It's hard for parents to figure out what's happened to my child, why is he changing. So they clamp down. And then there's no communication anymore. And then parents come and say, how do I get my boy back? How do I get him back? He didn't say anything, he didn't speak to me. So in this way, it happens very miraculously. Discussion helps in many ways, And then we reflect what's happening. Reflection is something that very enjoyable part during the time we read. Very enjoyable for the child. Why? Because this is the time when the child gets to speak out and give his realization. And this is the most amazing time because when he gives his realizations, it's almost as good as an adult speaking.
So you can start giving classes.
Huh?
It's like then they'll start giving classes.
Yeah, it's very powerful. I mean, we were doing the Dhruva story chapter after chapter, few chapters of the Dhruva story. And the children, but in the end, when they, so after every chapter we have realization class, and when they speak, it's like, it's like so deep. It's so deep, you think an adult is speaking or something. These are little children, innocent, sweet. And suddenly you see Krishna is taking birth in their hearts. It's like the whole world opens. And these things, and Krishna is taking birth in their hearts, and they know they change forever. It's like their whole life, they become transformed. The heart becomes transformed. It's not about, like in today's class Prabhu was saying, it's not about transforming the mind or the body. It's about transforming the heart, right? So scriptures have to be understood at the level of the heart. If you understand only at the level of the mind, then only the mind will be affected. Will only, our hearts will not be transformed, right? You see? So when we want to transform their hearts, right? And even if you don't know much, like I was a new devotee when I was reading Bhagavatam for the first time with that. It's not like now I have certain realizations and I can speak like that, right? At that time I was just reading first time, right? But still, we can go so deep, on their level. They're just children, right? And it's just, we can, we get quite deep even at that level. And they benefit so much to the point that when they grow up, they will read again and again to the point that they will assimilate and be wonderful devotees. I mean, the love of Bhagavatam was implanted in my children, and when they went to Oxford to do PhD, they wanted to do Bhagavatam there. They did their religious, theology and all those things over there. They did their PhD in Jiva Goswami's Bhagavatam, right? Because you can't just give up that love that you develop. And they have nice careers, they have families, they have earned money. But it can be a different thing for different children, It doesn't proper say if Bhagavatam is important no matter what varna you choose. Because in every varna there's Brahmana, Kshatriya and Vaishya, Shudra. Like you do cow seva, right? So there's Brahmanas who teach how to do cow seva. There are those who actually do it. But there's Brahmanas who like to teach people how to do seva, So even when you're doing that job, still one has to develop, understand, have good qualities, right? So you can take care of the cows. So it doesn't matter what varna or ashram you follow. This is important at any level.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
So when you say that you read the stories, which one you start with? Is there any order you go with, or?
No, I just go from chapter 1.
Oh, so basically you read the whole Bhagavatam.
Yeah. Yeah, during my homeschooling years, we read, in 6 years we read the whole Bhagavatam. We were doing like one chapter a day, which took about an hour, Because when you read the translations, you're not spending, you want to keep moving with children. Otherwise, if you make it too long, then they become distracted, they become restless, right? So you keep moving, but bringing in the purpose, bringing in all those discussion wherever you think is good for them. Okay. So yeah, you can go to because they're going to read again and again.
But other kids, like homeschooling, you do one to 12, but like other kids, you do stories? Or?
Yeah, no, you still do this. You still do that. Yeah. You try to find time, even when they're going to school, you try to find time to do a little Bhagavatam every day.
How do you deal when you come to like something like hellish planet something? You still go through it?
Yeah, we do everything. Anything. We don't skip anything. Like I said, you have to put it in the right perspective. Why are these hellish planets there? It's for sinful people to train them to adopt the new consciousness. Like if we have to go become a dog from a human being, well, as a human being, we cannot act like a dog. We have to develop the consciousness of a dog, We have to be in the mode of a dog, right? So that hellish planet is simply for training that jiva to become a dog, to develop that consciousness. So it's basically for sinful people. I remember doing things like that with my students, and they, there's always a side in all of us which likes all these horror stuff. I don't know about, but children love horror movies, and they want to be, in America at least, all the kids. There's a side in us that likes all this stuff, horror and all that. It satisfies that side. When you read, description of hellish planets, like there's a story in Prahlad's story where, Hiranyakashipu was giving advice to the children, to his sister, Rishabhani, right? About when his brother died, right? And so he gives that story of that those queens were dying, were crying over it, right? Yeah, and while they're crying, and then Yamaraj comes and tells them, you're crying, then the soul of your dead husband is not being able, cannot go and go to the next body. He's suffering. He's hovering there because you won't let him go. You stop crying because he's gone now. Mr. Prabhupada writes in the purport that how if the soul dies very attached, he really suffers because he's not able to go to his next body. So you have to let him go, And so we were reading this and it was really like eerie, like the soul over there, and the kids were really enjoying it. I remember that, And they thought this was really cool, and they learned so much how not to be an attached soul. So we think that, oh my God, I'm going to show my kids all this. But what they're getting out there now, this is transcendental. So in other words, nothing in the Bhagavatam is going to be detrimental to them. Nothing. So it's always going to be good. And I went through the whole thing. And you talk about that, there's description, there's sensual descriptions also, the Puranjan story and Diti and all that, So all that is there also. And even that's good for them. It's very good. Because if you don't give it to Bhagavatam, they're going to learn it somewhere else. Where do you want them to learn? This you're going to put in the right perspective. It is in the right perspective. Because it always gives, okay, if you do it this way, for your sense gratification, this is one kind of result. And if you do it for Krishna, this is another result. So in other words, everything is okay as long as it's used for the pleasure of Krishna. The attraction is very natural between boy and girl. But it has to be dovetailed for pleasing Krishna to have God-conscious children. And that too through marriage. Not like the way it's done today.
So you read a complete chapter and then you open discussion, reflection?
Yes.
But
No. As you read the verses, you open for discussion. You don't wait till the end.
Just one verses? Each verses?
No, not each verse. You read a few verses,
Yeah.
and then you stop and say, and you discuss. Not through the verses, because if you have read the purports beforehand, then you can note down what some of the things you would want to discuss. So that may come after 4 verses, it may come after 5, it may come after 2. Okay? So that means you're not reading, you're not stopping after every verse. You're stopping whenever you find the need for discussion.
And sometimes there is so much like philosophical concept or different moral issue, like you say. So how we know if it's not too high or it's not too...
You will know. I mean, if it's your child, you will know what he can grasp, right? You will know this is too high for that child, Why would you want to do? Yeah, and especially things that are too very sexual or something, you don't, you move on quicker, because you don't want to discuss the details. You want to discuss the concept behind it, that how this attraction is there in material life, but it must be used for the pleasure of Krishna, to have good children, okay? That concept has to be understood by them. But then you don't dwell on the details. You move on quickly. And the child understands. He's not looking for that. He's just, he knows, okay, this is not something we discuss. And you just move on. But you don't skip it. You don't skip anything because it's not necessary to skip. Because whatever they learn would be very valuable for them. Would be very valuable for them. They will see, okay, this attraction I see outside is happening everywhere in school and all that. But why is it wrong? It's because it's not meant to create progeny. It's not meant to please Krishna. The child should be able to see, go in life and see the opposite. The man should be able to see, the boy should be able to see the girl and in that perspective. Okay, if I'm attracted to her, am I okay? Will I marry her? If I'm planning to marry her, then it's okay. Because these principles have to be taught very early on through the Bhagavatam, through the stories. The story of Kardamuni and Devahuti, great point. Prabhupada in the purposely discussed it. I remember doing this chapter with teenagers, and we opened up like anything. Because this is the struggles they have in school. It's so permissive, everything. How do you see it then? Ultimately you lose your balance and think, maybe this is okay. Everybody else is doing it. No, but when they read Bhagavatam, they will know that this is the standard. The conviction that Prabhupada gives through his purpose is very convincing. Because it's so based on rationality. It's based on logic. So they will understand, okay, no, I cannot do that. So when we as parents are struggling, how to give them our own set of rules, our values. It's a big struggle. You can't. You really can't. The struggle, the effect over there is too powerful. It's too powerful to combat that. The only way you can stop that is through Bhagavatam and such high, deep stories, which show by example how to approach this subject, how to approach the opposite sex. So this can be taught very successfully. And children like that, they have attraction. There's times in their life when, beautiful girls come around and everything, but they know. They know, okay, this is not something, unless I'm planning to get married to her, it's not something I'm going to do. Sometimes they may struggle a little bit, but ultimately they are able to overcome it. And if they do struggle and they do want to get married, well, it will be a devotee. Somebody, at least a devotee. So in this way we can give them. So anything in the Bhagavatam, in other words, is not detrimental for them. It will put them on the right platform. Even learning about sex, even learning about violence, everything is there in the Bhagavatam. It's the best way to teach them, to give them the right perspective on these subject matters. Okay. Then these are examples from the study guide that I have. So in the study guide we have all these different activities, and there's a lot of these stories are being discussed over there. The third canto, Pradamani Devoti story is like for chapters after chapters. A lot of the third canto is all about that. How to give these such deep, high philosophy to these children, how to do it. We try to make that possible through activities. Make it easily digestible for them. Okay, then you can teach history in the same way. You can teach science. Also, again, the bombardment of modern science for children in school. Literally kids are coming out to atheists from school because of these different modern scientific theories, right? Darwin theory, chemical evolution theory. Prabhupada has argued every theory in so many purpose after purpose after purpose. Imagine what Prabhupada has given us. He works so hard, so hard to give us Srimad Bhagavatam. His main focus, he came to America, to the West, not to open temples. He came to give Srimad Bhagavatam. because he knew that that's what would revolutionize the society, misdirected civilization, he said. That's why he spent hours. He would sleep like 3-4 hours and wake up and spend hours on it. Even to the last moment he was translating books, right? Because he found this as the most important, sacrifice, what he wanted to give us.
I have a question.
Yeah.
When the kids go to school, we teach that Prabhupada's purpose are heavy against all this Darwin and all these big bang theories.
Yeah.
How do the kids, do the teachers get back to the parents complaining your son is not accepting Darwin's theory or no such situations come? Or?
No, the children, they are really sharp. They're sharp. They read Bhagavatam, but it's not meant. They're not supposed to go there and start arguing. Why should they? You understand it, but internally you reject it. Because, you don't reject it, but you understand it from the perspective of ultimately defeating them when the time comes. You think? It's good for them to know what's going on there. Remember, in the last time I said, we're not isolating our children. We're empowering them. Let them learn all that. But if you've given a foundation of Srimad Bhagavatam to them, they are not going to go astray. Their perspective will remain very firm, They will be theists. They will know that Krishna is behind everything. Can you imagine reading second canto, third canto? It's all about creation. How scientific it is, how detailed it is. Nobody can make that up. No person can make that up. After going to second canto, third canto, that we give activities after activities in those books. And fifth canto, all these cantos, after going through all that, you just can't, you accept it. You know this is the supreme truth, the absolute truth. And then when you go to college and you study all these things, you don't accept it. Internally you don't reject it. You know it's not true. In fact, they study this and then when the time comes, they're able to defeat it. If they've chosen that line, or even as preachers. As preachers, you can defeat all these things if you study Bhagavatam. So that's why that quote that Srila Prabhupada said, it teaches astronomy and sociology and psychology, he's naming that. Right? So by giving them the foundation of Srimad Bhagavatam, if they go and study Western psychology, anthropology, which is so atheistic, the origin of man, and they study science, so everybody is going for science now, right? The parents want their children to go hardcore materialists, hardcore scientists. And by the time they get there, they've lost it. They have no faith at all in God. They don't believe anything originates from God. Who's God? You can't save them at that time. It's so brainwashing by them. But a child raised in Srimad Bhagavatam, nothing will happen. You can go and become a scientist. Prabhupada didn't say you don't make them a scientist. He wanted devotee scientists, right? So Damodar and all these people. He was so proud of them. But these scientists, devotee scientists that are in the movement, they are solid. They have a foundation of Shastra. So this is how, whether they become scientists or not, it doesn't matter. The world now is becoming so atheistic, that you have to give it to them. All the people in India, their parents are putting them in IT, right? They all go for IT and they all want to come abroad. Every one of them is coming out to be an atheist. Because by the time they go to college, you lost it. Unless they are devotees. Devotees who are firmly based on Shastra. It's not enough to do practical devotional service only. You have to also understand the philosophy. Children who don't go through philosophy, they generally have a harder time later on in their life. Now Gurukulas are, they're realizing, a lot of schools are realizing, devotee schools. Yes?
Two questions. One is, what I've understood the Srimad Bhagavatam, is there's 8 books, or there's like more than one book? Am I understand that correctly? That it's like when the man was here, he had this whole set of books? Are
Yes,
they all
behind you
each
is 6 books.
Okay, okay. The other thing at the very start, you mentioned about the Christian religion and having a materialistic view. But last night, one devotee said that being born into a beautiful, like wealthy family is considered good karma on your path. But those 2 attributes would be for me the most materialistic. And I see that also on your path, looks matter. Like looks are, you judge based on looks as well. So not you, but like, I see, so for me, it's as materialistic, if not more. Like, because, to consider that if somebody, to judge based on the fact that they're born into this situation, therefore...
Yeah, this is different subject matter, so maybe I can come back to it later on. Yeah. Let's, try to make this more focused on children and how to, So then, let me come back to you. Let's see if there's more questions on this area for people if they have any question on the science and anything. Yes.
From Vaishnava principles and Prabhupada on campus, from which ages I can speak with a child about that if you want to marry the girl woman, you need to prepare wedding and from which ages it could be.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a slide on that. Let's get to that. Yeah. How to deal with adult topics in Srimad Bhagavatam. So, in other words, your question is that how early can we start? I mean, you just keep reading the whole Bhagavatam. One chapter after another, systematically. That's the idea. And as they come, you give it. And you bring it to their perspective, You bring it to their level. So here we see that how Bhagavatam is dealing with contrast, right? So if there's bad examples, like Puranjan and his wife, then there's good examples too. Daksha, Kashyapa Muni, they produce good progeny. Uttanapad, Pitu Maharaj and his wife Archie. So there's good examples also. Ardhamani and Devuti. So in other words, when there's bad examples, there's good examples also. And so, in other words, Srimad Bhagavatam is making a deeper point. The children, when they go through, when they read this, they understand what's right and what's wrong, basically. So you can introduce this at any age. It doesn't matter. Why? Because the child is living with a family. He sees husband, he sees wife. It's not like he's living in a cocoon. Okay? There's a loving relationship between husband and wife. At least there should be a loving relationship. Okay? For the child to grow up wholesome. For the child to understand this is how it's done. So the child is living with a parent who's a female and who's a male, right? He's not completely out in the dark. So he understands when you talk about subjects like that, okay, yeah, mommy lives with daddy and this is the right way because they're married. They live at home with me. I'm the child. This is the proper way to live. The example setting is already there. So when they read from Shastra about things that are not done right, then they understand, okay, this was not right. This is not done properly. So that is why they're suffering. Because they're not done right. So what is this big thing about children not reading all these things? In the Bhagavatam, They're going to get so much of it outside. Even little children. In America, and in other places, children are exposed to, sexual contact very early in their life, right? But we have a problem. We have a problem of how do we read Bhagavatam with them. It's everywhere. It's on television. It's on everything. They're being exposed. It's so important for them to read through the eyes of Srimad Bhagavatam and understand what does it mean for a man to associate with a woman? Nothing wrong. It's totally natural, this attraction. But it must be done the right way. To serve, to please Krishna. It must be to procreate good children. Intimate relationship is meant for procreation. It's very clear in the Bhagavatam. It's not impossible. I know so many children who are so ideal in their behavior. They have their challenges, but they are not serious challenges. Same thing with violence, children becoming violent. The violence that they see out on television, on screen, that violence is so bad for them. On video gaming especially. Video gaming is so bad in terms of teaching them violence. It's so detrimental, video gaming. Because over there when they show violence, is meant for furthering somebody's sense gratification. Who's killing? Who are they killing? Nobody knows. Just killing. Why? Because it satisfies my senses. That's the kind of violence they are watching out there. What the violence that's depicted in Srimad Bhagavatam is violence. It's a different kind of violence. It's violence meant to root out another violence. Arjuna was asked to fight so he could root out greater violence. It's meant for a higher cause. The devotees are empowered to do violence because it's pleasing to Krishna. Right? In the whole Krishna book, Krishna is the one who's killing the demons. The devotees are not killing. Mother Yashoda is not going around killing. Cowherd boys are not killing. The cowherd boys are taking shelter of Krishna. How can that violence be detrimental to them? Yes, if they watch movies, movies I don't know. But reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, they cannot become violent. But if you have them watch certain movies that are too violent, then devotional movies that are too violent, then you have to use your judgment. Because some movies are made badly, very badly, and you have to really be careful what you watch. And again, I don't even encourage watching too much on screen. It's bad for them anyway. So that's why we have to see that nothing in the Srimad Bhagavatam is going to be detrimental for them. Whether it's sex, whether it's violence, okay? So everything is there. Okay. Any other questions? Anybody? Roberto, go on. Yes. Yeah, that those challenges are there, but he sees in society other people, staying together. He sees society, he sees devotees, he sees other examples. Okay. Any other questions, comments, challenges? Okay, we'll move on now. Yeah.
I will translate in English.
Okay. Be loud. Louder.
Can we engage children in cooking in the kitchen?
Oh, yes. Yeah, just be safe. Just make sure.
Like here.
Oh, in the temple. How small? Depends how small, The older children, yeah. But younger children is dangerous, no? There's fire and all that. Yeah, not in the big kitchen. Maybe in your home kitchen, if it's more safer and in a corner she can give, dough and she can roll chapatis and, try to mimic you, try to imitate you. But temple kitchen, I think it's a bit little risky. Yeah.
So it's not about the standard, it's more about security.
Or standard also. I mean, temples have their standards, right? Yeah. Try all this at home. At least when you're dealing with children and cooking. When you're dealing with it. Other things they can volunteer. There's so many other things they can do. Children can get involved in the temple. Definitely. But kitchen, prasadam is a whole different thing. Okay. Okay, you have another question?
You said it's good to start with Bhagavad Gita before teaching Srimad Bhagavatam. So, but since our word can be, and is it the same? Just the purport and just the translation and.
Well, see, I'm focusing more on the Bhagavatam, and you can read the Bhagavatam. There's a few books written by devotees. Urmila Mataji, I think, wrote a book on Bhagavad Gita, something for children. It's not done in this way, like the way I've done the Bhagavatam, but you can try that. But Bhagavad Gita, because it's all philosophy, you can do a little bit, then move on to Bhagavatam.
Okay, you don't have to complete.
No. You can do it simultaneously, definitely.
Simultaneously.
Yeah.
And
Do a little bit because it's philosophy, right? So suppose you do one verse or something, then move on to Bhagavatam after that. Because there's going to be more, it's more through stories, so there's going to be more discussion and more of that. And you can begin from Canto 1. Even Canto 1 has so many stories, so many wonderful chapters. Narad Muni, his life, and then we have, a bit of Mahabharata there, Ashwatthama and all. So it's a very interesting canto also. Okay?
And then you can relate to Bhagavad Gita through the whole Bhagavatam, maybe it's good.
Yeah, you can try to do that, yeah.
If you cover like generate Bhagavad Gita at the beginning, and then you can come back to it.
Yeah, you will find yourself using that. As you're discussing Bhagavatam, you will all connect together. Okay? Yeah. So this is for small children. I was speaking yesterday also that, we just have to make it simpler for them. It's very fascinating for them to hear stories, right? Especially like when we started out with Canto 1, Chapter 1. It's all about the sages and Namaskar. It's like a nice picture they can make it in their mind. And then this way they become fascinated and they say, oh, Sutta Goswami, what is he doing there? Why have they made him the chief, the spiritual master, the captain of the boat? So it's like a fascinating story. You make it dramatic, you make it fascinating. Now these are very small children we are talking about, right? So you make it fascinating, you make it dramatic. And because it's Bhagavatam, it's going to attract their hearts. And right away they get concepts. Oh, he's so special, Sutta Goswami. Why? Because he knows he's submissive to, he's such a good disciple of his guru, Shukadeva Goswami. That is why he was qualified. And then he's well versed in Shastras. There's 3 qualifications that why they picked Sutta Goswami. It's mentioned in those verses. So they've learned suddenly that, okay, this Bhagavatam was spoken by Shukadeva Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj or Sutta Goswami to the sages. They suddenly learn who is Parikshit Maharaj. They have to learn, who was this famous Parikshit Maharaj. These characters, they can become their heroes. Parikshit Maharaj is their hero. Shukadeva Goswami becomes their hero instead of some outside film hero. See, we have to give these children these role models, these heroes, that they become proud of imitating and becoming. Heroes like Dhruva, Prahlad, Shukadeva Goswami. They should grow up picking out these heroes in their life. And how do you do that? Is through Bhagavatam, through these stories, because there are these personalities, these heroes. And they pick the instructions from them. Their life becomes their life. Prabhupada said, every child, he was quoting Jiva Goswami. Acharyas have written so much about how children should be raised. You will be amazed. And they're very clear in their ideas of training children. Very clear, to the point. See? And Prabhupada was quoting Jiva Goswami by saying, every child can become a parikshit. He didn't say that there's going to be one parikshit. Every child can become a parikshit if his parents so desire. If his parents so desire. When Kadam Kanan Maharaj passed away, when you hear his life story, I felt that he's just like another Parikshit Maharaj leaving the body. I mean, he was a fighter. What he went through in Vrindavan, he was shot. In one of his podcasts that he gave to Namarashtra, that famous podcast, he said that when he was shot in the bathroom in Vrindavan, I mean, the mafia didn't like him because he was just so brave. He was not ready to give in to the mafia, right? And when he died, he was in bed, in pain and in total bed rest for 1 whole year. This is what he went through. And still he did not give up his fight of Kali. He was a warrior, he was a fighter who fought the effects of Kali Yuga. We can see examples. I mean, this process that Srila Prabhupada has given, we see living examples today of people. People who are living the life of Srimad Bhagavatam. It's not something out there. It's not something a mythology. It's not something that doesn't relate to us. Everything relates to us in our life, in our children's life. It's a living scripture. See? You see the magic. Even if you do once a week, you see the magic. What to speak of somebody doing it every day? Bhagavatam is so powerful for our children that even once a week you'll see the effect. And if you make the effort of doing more, it's the only thing that will circumvent the effects of what you see outside. Okay, so very simple. I've already gave you 2 examples of how amazing this age group is, right? You think they're so little, they can't do anything. That's what we think, right? Oh, you can't teach them such high philosophy. Why not? It's the relationship. They have so much fun understanding these. They find it mentally challenging, and even if they're not very intellectual, it's still very, very good for them. It doesn't matter. And we cultivate the other interests too. If a child is more into music, we try to teach them philosophy through music. But the philosophy has to be given in some way or the other, right? Narottam Das songs, all the Acharya songs, they're full of philosophy. But they have to intellectually understand also the purpose of life, why we are here, that we are spirit souls. Right? It's like in today's society, in the educational system, we're teaching all about physical laws, all about this creation. Right? But then we don't understand what is the source of creation, right? And so therefore we become very frustrated. The whole world is dying of chaos because we've forgotten the source. Just like the Prabhupada gave this example of a microphone, with it comes a tradition. This is how to, what the microphone is all about and how to operate it and all that. But if you break it apart and you figure out how it's all assembled, is that enough? We have to also know the purpose why I'm using a microphone, to make my voice louder. It's not enough to just learn about the creation, this scientific theory or that Big Bang, this and that. It's also important, it's very important to know where it's coming from. What is the purpose behind this creation? That's why Shastra is so important. Children understand the purpose behind everything that they do. Okay? So anyway, so this is all when one can teach them. And then the 18 to 15-year-olds, the questions become deeper. Just to go deeper, because they're older kids and they can really, understand better, make more comparisons. But In my experience, it starts earlier than this. It starts as early as you can do. By this time, they are like, you know. Anyway, and this is the Dhruva story. Just a few examples I had here. Just how deep it can get. As you read, so many times I've done Dhruva story with the children. Each time I'm amazed. I find newer and newer meanings. Oh, really? Oh, I never thought about this. I never thought about this. And that's why Lord Chaitanya used to read these stories hundreds of times. The story of Prahlad and Dhruva. Because of the moral lessons, the lessons that came from these stories. It's unending. It's like a bottomless pit. And you keep reading and the child starts, and sometimes they'll come with expressions like, oh my gosh, my brain will explode. Because they've gone so deep. So many different levels after levels, layers after layers. So we were discussing things like, why does Suruchi get such a heavy reaction? How did the king get away without a reaction? Well, there was a purpose why the king never got such a heavy reaction. His atonement, his feeling so sorry of what he had done. Suruchi never did that atonement. But the king was very lamenting. He was genuinely so sorry for his conduct. So Krishna was merciful to him. So many little things. How do you say sorry when you offend somebody? Gratefulness, we've already discussed that. Anyway, and so here there's more questions. Then this, so here, preaching is the essence. We finish this and this will take very short time. I'll be able to cover this. Because there's going to be Artik at 6:30. So if anybody has any questions, otherwise I'll move on to my last section. Okay, so this is the last thing. So how do we develop this faith in our children when we notice that they are losing it, right? We all have this experience that when they're little children, they're just such nice, cute little devotees. They come to the temple, their heroes are their parents, they adore their parents. Everything they say is just like it's perfect, so obedient, and they're like little saintly devotees running around, right? And but suddenly what happens is when they become older, they become teenagers, then we see some problems, right? What happened to my sweet little boy? Where did he go? What happened? Well, this is a real problem, right? So what do? We have to, at this time, we have to build their faith. Right? And sharing Krishna with others is a great way to build that faith. It's not enough to just give it to them, but we should encourage them to give it to others. Just like we are encouraged to do preaching, right? Because there's so much mercy in Lord Chaitanya's, Sankirtan mission. There's so much mercy. So we want them to also be participants of that mercy, but then also it helps them to develop faith. I don't know if you've ever given a class, but if you've given a class on anything, you will study that subject so thoroughly because you have to present it to others. There could be challenges, there could be doubts, there could be questions that you will have to answer, right? If you're sitting here giving a class, you will learn that subject in and out because you're sharing it with others. Same thing with children. When they give Krishna to others, then they will know they will have to develop their own faith in Krishna. And this is how their faith becomes stronger. Especially when they are on the stage and when they have to give Krishna to others, they are appreciated. And they get applauded. And that is it does wonders to their faith. When children hear the clapping, they become so proud. What do they become proud? I'm proud to be a devotee. That kind of pride we have to give them. Because the whole temple is appreciating, the devotees are clapping for me. I go outside, I do school programs, I look at all the school children are clapping for me. The teachers are clapping for me. Oh, so nice to be a devotee. I'm proud to be a devotee. So, this was something I tried and it really It's amazing how much, like I said, there's so many, and Prabhupada has given this process where so many different things. Harinam, book distribution, school and college programs. We were, I was doing that. We were calling schools in advance and asking them if they wanted us to do a presentation on Vedic culture. They all, by then, they knew we were Hare Krishnas, and they would invite us. And then we would go and make a presentation. Of course, when the kids were little, we were making the presentation. But when they got older, then they started doing it. Why? Because they saw everything, they were observing. This is the way to do it. And then they became taking the lead. I mean, which school teaches children how to do public speaking? Which public school teaches children to do dramas and plays? How many dramas and plays do we have in public schools? Hardly any. Here we have a festival every day. Do a drama for every festival. It's a great way to engage the children. They learn so much, they learn, they develop so many skills, practical skills. And when children interact with adults and they actually learn responsibility. Take the lead, do dramas, do plays. See how your children can be engaged in different activities. If your children are older, take them on book distribution. Because unless we have our children participate, we lose them. There's so many attractions out there, there's so much competition out there. How can we hold on to them? By making them a part of our Krishna conscious life, engaging them. Like I told you, after our morning program and after reading Srimad Bhagavatam, we were out there. Every day we were out there doing things. It was so much fun. If you cannot go out every day, at least once a week, you want to go. We were even doing prison programs. Because the children have to see the joys of Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, they're going to find joy somewhere else. And then Krishna will act in their hearts. Once you give them Krishna consciousness, it's not like you have to work very hard. Then Krishna, he takes care of the rest. He implants himself and he does the rest of the work. Okay, so all these are extras. Festivals I've already talked about. So important. See, you see the picture. Children are engaged in cooking. Making laddus. So it has to be something which is safe. It needs to be safe and not anything risky. Like that, where they can. And these are older children also. See how nicely they're being engaged. It must be Mayapur somewhere. I don't know where it is. Yeah. Decorating, organizing, cleaning. Get the children involved in the temple. The older children, teach them responsibility, how to volunteer time. They can do wonders. They have such hidden talents. I don't know, the teenagers are really amazing sometimes, Decorating, acting, singing, writing scripts. Every festival should be like a great opportunity for our children, not just for us as parents. They should be excited. Oh, I'm going to be doing this for the temple or at home, whatever is feasible for you. Vacations, again, a great way to teach them Krishna consciousness. Choose the vacations that is meaningful. There's nothing wrong with going to national parks and all that. It's a great way also to learn about Krishna.
Which types of vacations we are all giving school kids and they are teenagers?
Yes, I've written here. Brajmanda Parikar. Take them to India for Brajmanda. It's a one-month transcendental boot camp. It's a boot camp. Every day you walk 10-15 kilometers, you sleep in a tent, get your ration of 1 bucket of water. It's the most amazing experience for children. It's so adventurous. It's a great way to do, and then After every walk, they are stopping to see Krishna's pastimes over there, to hear about Krishna, what he did here, what did he do here. It's like Krishna book my sons wrote, in that big book, that it's like Krishna becomes alive. You read the Krishna book and it becomes alive. You go to Brajmandal. Because those places are there. You read, but those places are existing there. Such an amazing experience. So we also have our fun, right? We have so many things there. If you cannot do that, then go for some organized tours, that sannyasis do. They are also very nice. They are less austere. Children take that austerity. They have a problem. Children have no problem. Then Rath Yatra festivals, very nice to go here and there, London Rath Yatra or wherever which is closer to you. It's our vacation. We also need the vacation time. But how do you plan that? What do you do? Our principle was that we would aim at some transcendental place like that, like Rath Yatra or something, and if something was along the way, we'd stop by, even though it was not devotional. We planned for the transcendental, okay, we'll go for Rath Yatra, but along the way, if there was something they wanted to see, which is famous or something, then you see it, okay. One time we did that and we stopped at the Disney World because it was such a big, big noise about Disneyland, right? So we went there and my children, they found it the most disappointing thing. They never grew up with Mickey Mouse. If you don't grow up with Mickey Mouse and all those characters, it has no charm for you. And the lines were so big that to go to one fun activity, you had to wait an hour. What? Is this what children are dying to come to? They didn't care for it. But okay, it was a curiosity and we all did it, So, anyway, they're all Mickey Mouse characters, and if you haven't grown up with that, then they don't have any attraction. Discipline is a huge topic. And then resources are the books here. I think we should stop here. Anybody has any last minute questions? It's 6:30 almost.
Could you push the slide on discipline? The second last one, I'd like to see.
Yeah, sure. Yes,
There are two little girls who are helping to do cookies with Mataji, and they are they like so much to do.
yeah.
But Pujari said, children should not go to the kitchen because cookies are offered on the open. What do you think about that?
Well, that's a temple policy, and everybody has their policy, so I can't really say much. Yeah, I can't say much. Everybody has a standard and a policy. So, like I said, if kids want to make them, let them make at home. It's just simpler. Yeah, it's just like simpler until they get initiated or something, And Prabhu said after the age of 12 you can get initiated. Yeah. So, yeah. I had that principle that when my kids, before they went to college, they needed to get initiated, and they did. Because you need the added extra protection, you're going out. So, so before they go to college, just make it a point that your children get initiated and they get fixed up on this path of chanting 16 hours. It's a nice policy to have. You go backwards?
Yes,
Yeah, sure. Vacations?
No, this is not. It's up. It will be your mail isolation.
Oh, my mail ID. Okay,
If you
sure.
get the information.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about. Right here.
Yes, exactly.
What does the question punishment or forced discipline mean? Like, what is the difference, or what is the concept of forced discipline?
Yeah, like discipline comes out better when there's love. You know, obedience naturally follows a loving atmosphere. Obedience becomes easier. You know, for example, if the parents are together and they have a nice relationship, then a child growing up in that family won't have very little problems being obedient and following discipline. Why? Because they see this loving relationship. You know. So better than punishment is when we develop that propensity to love Krishna. You know. Then they will naturally follow. You see? They will naturally. But punishment, just for the sake of punishment, you make them rebellious. They become rebellious if you just employ punishment without the giving them the love, then it just becomes punishment. Like Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita also, the way he deals with Arjuna is just so loving, even though he's trying to get him to understand what is his duty, you know. So in other words, he wasn't punishing him or anything. He had such intense love for Arjuna, you know. And in this way, he convinced him through that love and compassion. Krishna was feeling so much love for him that he gave him the most confidential knowledge. And then just said, yes, now I see it. I can see it now. You know? You see, so it has to be backed by. That's what Prabhupada said. To develop in our children the loving propensity to love Krishna, discipline becomes easy. So, if it's backed by a loving relationship in the house, then discipline becomes easy for the child. Of course, there's arguments and all that, but they should be resolved peacefully. They should be, that's natural. And children don't get affected by arguments so much. It's like bamboos crashing in the forest. Nobody takes it seriously in a forest fire.
Prabhupada keeps